bit. And I think we're set up. Hey everybody, this is Rock Queens everyone coming at you live from my headquarters in Rocklahoma. How's it going? It's Monday. It's supposed to be Manic Monday. It is pretty manic in this country right now, especially in Los Angeles. But we're not going there. We're not going there. We're not going there, guys. No, we're not going there. We're not going to talk about LA and the Elon Trump romance breaking up. No, we're not. I'm out here, live outside, guys, live outside. Because today, 38 years ago, I lost my dad to alcoholism. 38 years. I was 16 years old. And, so, I like to have a real discussion, a real talk on grief, sobriety, life, you know, how death shapes a person, especially when they're a teenager like I was. So in a way, this is really dedicated to my dad. I still miss him. I wonder what it would have been like if he did go to meetings, stick with the meetings, get for recovery. Because after all, he did, you know, organize the ambulance squad in Greenwood Lake, New York. And, he just couldn't do it. And so, I love you, Dad. I love you. I miss you. I know you're looking down at me, and I know you're proud of me. So is Mom, by the way. And, so, yeah. I think when my father got sick, he had emphysema too, guys. I mean, he had emphysema. They found a brain tumor and all that stuff. He died from alcoholism, okay? And that alcoholism built a wall between me and my father. A lot. And it brought a lot of insanity into my life and into my mom's life. And, I guess in a way, his spirit is living vicariously through me. You know? That's how I see it now. And, let me tell you a little bit about my father. My father was born February 4th, 1928, almost the same year as my mother-in-law, by the way. She was born in 1927. He was born in 1928. Anyway, he was in World War II. He was in the Navy. And that's where he learned how to drink like a man. Any guy or girl that goes in the service will tell you the same thing. They will teach you how to drink. And so I think he was stationed in Puerto Rico. It was South Pacific, I guess, somewhere. I think it was Puerto Rico, to tell you the truth, but I'm not really sure about that. I had all these pictures of him, after he died and whatever, and because of my addiction to alcoholism, I lost everything, I have one picture of him, and that is, it was with my mom, myself, and my mom, and my dad, in front of my grandparents' house after I was baptized. That's the only picture I have of him. Anyway, so, he told me, because he had a tattoo, he says the first time they let him off the ship, him and his shipmates all decided to get drunk and get tattoos and whatever, and he had the date he went into the Navy. But when he died, I was like, "What's that, Dad? What's that?" It's the date I went into the Navy, and I know you can't see it, and so my father, he was actually born in Cliffside Park, New Jersey. And I have uncles and aunts and pop and grandma and whatever. And so after my father served in the Navy, I'm sure his alcoholism kept progressing. He got married. He was actually a cop. He was a cop in Leonia, New Jersey, which is right by Cliffside Park. He didn't last there long. I don't know why. Maybe because he drank too much. Maybe he was drinking on the job when he was on patrol. I don't know. But he did get married, not to my mother, to I forget her name. My mom would know her name. Well, anyway, he got married to his first wife. So she had Ellen, wait a minute. Ellen, Tommy, and Ronald, right? And so he had 3 kids with his first wife. That didn't work out. So he went, he got married a second time, and he had another son named Bruce. He's about, I think, 10 years older than me, I think. That didn't work out. Well, he met my mother in Morristown. Actually, my mom's best friend, Janice, used to go out with my dad. And when I found that out, I was like, what? Huh? To me, that was just a big shock. So, my mom she graduated from Morristown High School, in 1961, and then my grandparents, her parents, moved to Denville, New Jersey. Okay, and that's when she got married to my dad. And uh, my parents moved up to Greenwood Lake, New York. He actually organized the ambulance squad there. He was still an alcoholic, and he still tended at some bars in town. And he got away with murder. All right, when it comes to drinking and driving and all that stuff. Anyway, so my mom tried to get pregnant and all that stuff. Hey, Moto, what's up? Thanks for joining me on my stream. I lost my father today, 38 years ago, to alcoholism. So I'm dedicating my stream to him. But yeah, much love back to you. Yeah. It's not clickbait. You know. Yeah, we almost forgot cyber hugs. Big bear cyber hugs. Here, hold on. Here you go. I hope I didn't break your ribs. Hi, Toga. Oi, 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 how's it going? Thanks for being here. How are you? I love the fire. I love the horns. I love the shades. So this stream is kind of special. You know. Whoops. We were almost losing the stream on the hugs. Yeah, I know. I don't know my own strength. But I do appreciate you guys coming by. It means a lot. Yeah, Moto, this is Toga. Toga, this is Moto. Oh, you probably know each other. Yeah. I can't. I know, right, Toga? I saw that too. She squeezed too hard, and we lost the single for a second. Like I said, I don't know my own strength, and plus, my hick internet is made out of straw. Okay, so of course my hugs are gonna break the internet around here. And I had big boot. No. Yeah. Joan Jett wrote a song with Runaways, but they didn't have big boobs. They all had pretty much goose pimples. Maybe I should write a song, huh, about that. I'm actually writing a song, and and hopefully by this week I'll have it done. You know. Well, God, I mean, Bon Scott with AC/DC wrote, big balls. You got big balls. I got big balls. Well, I don't have big balls. Well, I do have balls of steel because I fight for what's right. Okay? I do. Trust me. I'm from Jersey. And I will go ball to ball with you. That doesn't even sound right. But, oh my God, the ants here. I wish the wildfires a couple months ago killed all the ant hills. Wow, I'm getting like... I won't be surprised if I open this up and I drink a couple ants. Hey, but it's more protein for me, right? Yeah. Maybe Java Monster should add ants in the drink, right? For more protein. Who doesn't love protein? But anyway, I talking about ants. This is no joke. Hold on. John Monster, the only rocket fuel for this rock queen. Hell yeah! I have a story for you. In Denville, New Jersey, my hometown, okay, we lived right by Route 53. I know you don't know the area. You can look it up on Google. I don't, whatever. But they used to have a gourmet store right by the tracks there, by the train station. So, me and my friends, because we, didn't live that far from J&M's gourmet store, they closed now and stuff. But they actually had, like, snails, like escargot in cans. They had chocolate-covered ants in a can that was, like, for $5.99. And they had roasted grasshoppers and all that. This is no joke, right? So, of course, we were all freaking high. We're going to go back up to the train trestle and stuff. So, we were having the munchies. Literally, we were having the munchies, okay? But yet, we wanted to eat chocolate-covered ants, escargot from a can, and I love them with garlic butter, too, and broiled, okay? But in a can, yeah, all right. And that was like $11.99 or something like that. And then we had the roasted grasshoppers, right? So like, well, who has the can opener? So you know what we had to do? We had, we were trying to, like, crush the can or whatever, so we didn't have to buy a can opener. Stupid. So we went to Rite Aid at the AP Shopping Center and stuff. And of course, we had to get, like, Snickers and Reese's and all this other stuff along with it. All right. So we got the can over. We went across the street to the train trestle, right by Richwood Avenue, Richwood Place. I'm sorry. And so here we are, doing our thing and all that stuff. And so we actually got a bottle top. So whoever heads was, the top of the bottle cap, and tails was, if it fell, the other way, right? So seems like all right. Guess who's gonna go first? All right, and so we were spinning the bottles too, okay, and so we flipped the bottle cap and landed on heads. And guess who had to eat the chocolate covered ants first? And I was like, oh my god. And so, thank God I was high. All right. So Mike opened up the can and stuff, and he actually, you know what he did? There was ants crawling around the ground and stuff. He actually he tried to put like some ants in the can of chocolate covered ants with some dirt in it. And it tasted like, and we did it by our fingers, by the way. Right? It tasted like sort of like a raisinette, and it was gritty, sandy, like real salty. It was salty, whatever. Right? Yeah. And I was like, all right, that's enough for me. But I kept getting the bottle on me. I'm like, what the hell is this? Is this it? I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. I told myself, I'm going to walk down the tracks and stuff because I have to go pee, right? All right. And they're like, oh, you suck. You're so weak. You're such a wuss. All that crap. It's all fun. But yeah, so we ate chocolate covered ants, roasted grasshoppers, and snails. What fun, right? Fun times back then. And yeah. Yeah. But I do love escargot when they're cooked properly with garlic butter. And they are good. And yes, I've had frog legs. Okay? I've actually had skunk and all that. I was actually talking about this RV park we were at in Parsippany, New Jersey, with Doc Rell's RV park. And the guy got shot that we knew. He died, and America's Most Wanted actually came on to the site. But one night, my friend killed a skunk. He actually stripped it down. He buried it for a couple hours or whatever, and he marinated it and put it on the grill. It tasted very gamey, okay? But the reason why he buried it was to get the stink out. So you think I'm more hick now, right? Just by talking about that story. But my father loved to hunt. My father used to go to Prince Edward's Island with Pop and, like with my uncles and stuff for a whole month. And they shot like elk and deer, and they fished for salmon and all that stuff. And that was their bonding time. You know, and when I was little, and when they still lived in Cliffside Park, Pop Pop had a big moose head over the fireplace, and I said to Daddy, "I want to pet it. I want to pet it. I want to pet the moose." You know, and my father was getting so tired and stuff of lifting me up and just so I can pet the moose. But see, that's how I am in real life now. You know, I want to pet the bison. I want to pet the armadillos. I want to pet the raccoons. You know, I have like a Snow White syndrome or something. You know what I mean? But my mom said, my grandmother cooked the best hamburgers and all that. And actually, I think my father did more cooking than my mother did. And he made this one, oh my God. He made this one dinner. He would, pan fry like the pork chops, right? And all that, right? He would get the pork chops out, and he made his own tomato sauce too. Okay? So, he made his own tomato sauce and whatever. So, when the sauce was done, he would put it back in the frying pan, and he would put the two or three pork chops back in the pan. And then, this was the best touch of them all. He used to put sliced mozzarella on top of them. And I'm telling you, oh my God. I can still remember him making that. My grandmother, he taught my grandmother, my mom's mom, to make it. It was so good, so good. Mwah! It's so good. So yeah, my father knew how to cook. He also knew how to get out of tickets. He also knew how to get drunk. But my parents had a hard time getting pregnant. My mom had 3 miscarriages. No, I'm sorry, 2. And they finally got pregnant with me. Woohoo! And but something was wrong with me. Excuse me. I was getting out of the embryonic sac. The embryonic sac protects the fetus, the baby, whatever, okay? So, I was getting out of it. Like, I was really rambunctious because I wanted to get the hell out of it, right? Anyway, so, my mom had to go to the hospital up in Warwick, New York State, in St. Anthony's. And, her doctor's name was Dr. Rizzi, right? He was an alcoholic. Okay, he was a known alcoholic and stuff. And so, they gave my mom some medication for her to relax before the surgery, whatever, right? And this was an experimental surgery at that time, okay? And here it's going to be performed by a drunk doctor, okay? How well was that going to go, right? So Dr. Rizzi told my father, listen, don't tell Karen this, but she might still lose the baby. I'm still a miracle, guys. I should have never been here. So way back when, guys, way back when, God had a plan for me. It was experimental. The doctor was drunk, and because of my mom's, biology or what was going on with her in her body, she could have lost me. But I'm still here, baby. So yeah, I am a miracle. So Dr. Rizzi stitched me up back in the sack, and Dr. Rizzi came out to see my father and stuff, and he's like, yeah, everything's fine, but don't tell Karen, she might lose the baby. And so, like 6 months later, poof, here I am. Yeah. So, I swear I still remember, and I don't know if it's a dream, I don't know, but I still remember me being in, the baby room, and I looked over, and there was this chubby baby. This baby boy weighed over 10 pounds, and he broke the hospital's record. And I bet you that woman was split right open, right bad. But anyway, put a couple more extra stitches in it. If you know, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so everything was fine. My mom always brought my dad, coffee when he woke up in the morning. A dutiful wife, right? And he used to feed me, like, I had pictures of this where, he would, when I was getting older, like I guess 9 months or whatever, he would feed me a glass of orange juice. I would sit on his lap and he would feed orange juice. And in that picture, there was a cup of coffee. But when it got to my first birthday, regular routine, and my mom got the coffee for him, and she was about to put the coffee on his nightstand, and she saw a can of Budweiser. And she says, oh, no. My grandparents knew my father drank a lot. His parents, my grandparents, knew he drank a lot, okay? Well, I wonder what, because he had 2 other marriages besides him, right? Anyway. So my mom was like, she really put her foot down and she said, no, we're not raising Mickey in an environment like this. And so, my mom took my dad to AA meetings. up in, I think, Warwick, New York State. Warwick or Middletown, in that area. But at that time, in the 70s, AA is not like it used to be. AA at that time was all depressing. Nobody was really joking around. It was just very somber and all that stuff. So my father never went back to AA. But she told my father, no, you're not going to drink. No, there's no way. I'm not going to have Vicky be raised in an environment like this. No. And I didn't know this, but there was a couple of times where my father beat my mother. Okay? And so when it was my first birthday, we were going to have my first birthday party at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Her parents, my grandparents, in Denville. And during this time, when I had my birthday party, my mom was planning to pack up and go. Get away from my father. You know what? And so, that's what happened. You know, we went back up to Greenwood Lake, and when my father wasn't home or whatever, she packed up what she could and drove back to Denville with my grandparents, because she did not want me around that environment. So when I was like 3, my parents got divorced. My father had visitation rights and whatever. And my mom told him, do not drink. Do not drink in front of her. Do not take her to bars. But what did he do? He took me to bars. And I didn't, listen, when you're a little kid and stuff, say, you know, what our routine was when my father picked me up from my grandparents' house in Denville, whatever, we would stop in Sparta. Now his parents live up in Sparta, in Sussex County. Real nice house. They built their house. All that stuff. My grandparents had money, okay? And plus my aunt who decorated the house had very expensive taste. That was Aunt Arlene. Well, anyway, so, alright. So, of course my father would say, yeah, I'll bring her to Sunday school. You know, we're going to see Pop-Up, you know, my dad and, you know, my mom, and then after that we're going to go, you know, she's going to sleep over at my house and all this stuff. Well, that happened a few times. Like, he would pick me up on a Friday. We would go up the highway to Sparta. We would sleep over at Pop-Pop's and Grandma's house. And then after that, we would go up to Daddy's house. And he would have Shasta Cola and stuff. And I mean, you know, we had neighbors that actually smoked pot. Yeah, you know what? But Lisa, the girl that lived in the next door with, next door, uh, she was like my big sister. She was like my old playmate and stuff. And I mean, we would go on picnics together and everything else. Beautiful farmland. Uh, you know, uh, you could actually see High Point uh, in New Jersey. The monument, the obelisk there, and all that. When you go up, and we always used to see High Point. Um, Now I put the Wi-Fi on. I don't want to start talking and then it just cuts off like. So I put the Wi-Fi on. Now watch when I start getting serious about certain things. It's gonna cut off and it's gonna piss me off. Well, it's holding steady, guys. It's still holding steady. So let's give this another try, huh? Uh, so like I said, my father took me to bars. I thought it was fun because all his friends would give me money to play, like the slot machines. I mean, not the slot machines, like the pinball machines. Pool. Uh, um, I think this one bar had um, the clairvoyant, and stuff where you put a quarter in and it tells your fortune teller, whatever. Uh, but there was times, guys, where he would drive home drunk, okay? And this is out in the country, and especially if it's foggy out. This one night, we were driving. I was holding on to Bobby, my elephant, Mousy, little Mousy, and then Teddy, whatever. And all of a sudden, we started veering off on the side of the road. I was like, no, Daddy, no. And thank God, nobody, I mean, he veered right, but thank God nobody was coming in the opposite direction. That was one instance. And then he got into like this accident. He showed me, oh, this is where I used to live. It wasn't Cliffside Park. He said, yeah, this is where I grew up, and whatever he said. And then he turned left and he ran right into a tree, head on. And he got so mad. Did I tell my mother? No. He did try to take me to a Catholic, like Sunday school and stuff. A couple of times. But the progression of his alcoholism was getting worse and worse and worse. And, we went to Orange County Fair up in Middletown, right by Orange County Speedway, and I performed there, okay? Actually, my dad raced there, Ed raced there, I performed there, woo! All right, in Orange County Speedway. So, Lisa our neighbor and her dad and me, and Lisa brought a friend with her to the fair, county fair, and my father, and I got lost. I got lost. And here they were calling me on the loudspeaker and all this stuff. Lisa was trying to find me. Her friend was trying to find me. Whatever. Do you know where my father was? Do you know where my father was? He was in the beer tent listening to music. He was listening to the band. He also that day, I wanted to ride like the bumper cars and all that stuff, and the guy that was operating the bumper cars says, "Sir, you have to go with her." And he got so mad at that. He's like, "You should, stepped up on your tippy toes." I'm like, "What?" But yeah, that was a big scare. When I got lost, and here thank God Lisa found me, and here he was just, drinking beer at the beer tent listening to this band. And it wasn't just like maybe 15, 20 minutes. It was like maybe an hour and a half. And here he was, just drinking beer, listening to music. He had his loafers on, with white socks, and he was just listening to music, drinking his beer. But he always had to go somewhere that had beer, it seemed like. We went, it was Memorial Day weekend, I think, or 4th of July, or what, I don't know, whatever. And there was a state park, and at the state park, guess what? They had a beer lodge. And we had a fun time. We got a little picnic. We got like macaroni salad and coleslaw, and we got, fried chicken, whatever, But right down the way there was a beer lodge. And then actually Lisa, our neighbors and stuff, came join us and stuff, right? So, we would go swimming in the lake. Oh my God, it was so cold. And that's when Jaws came out. So everybody was playing Jaws in the pond. In the lake and stuff, right? So there was a couple times he had to go to the beer lodge, and he took me with him, and there was a pinball machine, and here's Vicky, let's play pinball, while he's drinking away. Yeah. And there was one time too where my dad picked me up at my mom's. Before we stopped at Pop-Pop's and Grandma's, he stopped at a bar, and he had to call Pop-Pop for something. And before he made that phone call, he says, "Vicky, don't tell Pop-Pop we're at a bar." So he's talking to Pop-Pop and whatever, and Pop-Pop says, "Well, let me talk to Vicky." Right? I think Pop-Pop knew where my father was, okay? So, yeah. "Hi, Pop-Pop." And he says, "Hi, sweetie." And I said, we're at a bar, Pop-Pop." And my father grabbed that phone. His face was so red. Okay? And he's like, "I'll talk to you later, Dad." Hung up. He went to the bar, and there was no one in the bar. Okay, we've been there before, right? So, so the barmaid got him a beer and a shot, and he turned to me. My father turned to me, saying, "You're not gonna have any Coke with cherries in it. I want you to sit right. I want you to sit right there." And the barmaid, you know, looked so sad, and she said, "I'm sorry, honey." And so after a while, I guess my father said, "All right, get her a Coke," and she gave me like 3 cherries and the Coke. But yeah, it was progressively getting worse. Uh, he wanted to take me to a Meatloaf concert in Orange County College. My mom's like, "No way, you're not." You know. And there's some other weird stuff that happened too. Um, but my father at times actually, surprised me by going to my baseball games and stuff. But guess what? He smelled like alcohol. You know, he always wore this leather jacket, like a brown leather jacket, but it always smelled like alcohol. I thought it was like cologne or something like that. I mean, when you're that you know, and so so I hugged my dad. And I could smell the alcohol. You know, but at least he showed up to a couple games. You know. My father spent some Christmases with, my grandparents, my mom's parents, and he spent Christmas with us, all that. And yeah, there was alcohol in the house, Miller beer, because my grandparents' last name was Miller. Okay, we didn't own Miller beer or whatever, but and so, but I think towards the end they didn't allow Al to drink, or my father really, restrained himself not to drink. He probably had some in the car, right, or whatever, but yeah. And we had some good times. Like we went to Wonderama and like New York State. It was a kids show on Channel 5. He took me there and just and he always took me to this it was his mentor. It was like his sponsor in AA. Okay? This he was a minister, and he was a recovering alcoholic priest. Okay? And so he would try to help my father. Or my father would go to him and, and all that stuff. And they used to have these dachshunds, and they always used to call them Candy. Like, here's Candy 1, here's Candy 2, whatever. I still have that picture in my head with my father, and I have my full coat on with, the fur and the, fur cuffs and whatever. And I was holding Candy. I was smiling. I was so happy. I wish I still had that picture. But after that, just, like I said, it was getting worse. My father was doing weird things. I'm not gonna get into the whole situation. Uh, I'm gonna censor myself, okay? It has to do with, you know, uh, sexual abuse and all that stuff. So if it triggers you, just, uh, I'm not gonna go into details, all right? But a certain situation happened, uh, and I told my father, I said, "You're sick as a dog. You're sick as a dog. I want to go home. I want to go home to mommy." And he was pissed because he knew he was going to get in so much trouble and stuff. And so he had his shotgun out, okay, right by the dresser. So he had no phone, so we had to walk a little ways to the nursing home and use their payphone. My mother knew something was wrong right off the bat. Right off the bat, she knew. A mother's instincts, right? I think you call it Pop Pop too, but I don't, But, yeah. So, my mom and my grandmother drove up from Denver to Middletown to pick me up. It was like about an hour and a half drive from Denver to Middletown. All that. So, and I forgave my father, by the way. Okay? I forgave him. But, a lot of people told me you should never forgive your father, but I did. Anyway, but, so my mom told my grandmother, stay in the car. I'll go get Vicky. You don't have to walk. Just stay in the car. So my mom walks up, and my father had a gun. My mom walks in, and my father had a fucking gun. And he was going to kill us. But he knew Grandma was out there. Okay? My mom said we were lucky to get out of there. We literally ran to the car. And it wasn't a short driveway. It was like running down a hill, okay? There's no driveway or nothing. So here I am in the back seat. Grandma was here. My mom was there. And she said, my grandma said to my mom, is she okay? What's going on? What's going on? And my mom said to me, what happened with Daddy? And I'm not going to say it, okay? And I told her what happened. The next day, she actually called our priest, our minister from our church, Episcopal Church, told him what happened, and he said, "Yeah, well, I'll support you. We'll go to the New York State Police Department, right?" And so Father Garvin and stuff came. We rode all the way up to the barracks in New York State, And it was so embarrassing, okay? You know, you're talking to strange men, they're detectives, okay? But they want details. They want the proper nouns, okay? The proper names of the genitalia, right? And all that crap. And here I am in the same room with our minister and my mom. Embarrassing. And you know what? Nothing came of it. He never went to prison because he got off. Because Aunt Arlene and uh, Reverend Jim, you know, stood up for him. Nothing happened to him. Never got no jail time, nothing. But guess what? I didn't see him for 3 years. 3 years. And there was more craziness with the alcohol with him. And you know, Dad, I'm sorry, but this is my story and your story. And I'm trying to make a point where the alcohol created such a wall of insanity. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're probably thinking, she's talking to the sky. Oh my God, she's crazy. No, no, I had good times with my father, okay? I did. But because of the alcohol, our relationship was really scarred a lot. You know, and hold on for a minute. I'm sorry. So I didn't see him for 3 years. Or well, if I sent, yeah, I was like, yeah, about 3 years. But during that time, he would call me. You know, like because we would have like the upstairs phone and whatever and stuff. And I don't know how my grandma didn't recognize my dad's voice, but he would say, "Well, you know, is Vicky there? This is Sheila," or what? I don't know how he did it. Okay, and he would talk to me. My mom had a restraining order on him. Okay, my mom had a restraining order on him because of what happened. But he missed me. I missed my father. You know, I mean, I knew what he did was wrong. Okay, it only happened that one time. You know, whatever. Okay, but still, I didn't know what was really going on. Like, you know, like, and so when you're that young, you try to comprehend what's going on. Like, oh, Daddy doesn't love me anymore. Why doesn't he see me anymore? Well, he calls me, right? He calls me. But this is where it got really dangerous, okay? I was in 3rd grade. In Riverview School in Denville. And one day, the secretary called my teacher, my class, my teacher, and says, have Vicky come down to the office. You know, and she said, Vicky, you have to go down to the office. Mrs. Roseman wants to talk to you in the office. So I got down to the office, school office, and Mrs. Roseman says, your father's on the phone. What? So here she is, typing away, doing whatever, you know, doing secretarial stuff. And my father was so freaking drunk, he was out of it. He said to me this. He says, Vicky, I miss you. He says, I'm going to take you away from your mother. My friend, and I can't, my friend Alphonse D'Amato, and at that time, Alphonse D'Amato was the senator of New York, okay? I got papers from my friend Alphonse D'Amato saying I can take you away from your mother. He's saying all this. And I knew he was drunk. He was just... And he says, I don't want you to tell anybody this. He says, tomorrow after school, when you get off that bus, I will meet you at Main Street School. And I will take you away from your mother. And I'm like, I knew something was wrong. So I got home, and he did this twice. I got home, my mom came home from work, and I told her what happened. Well, guess what happened? She went to court the next day. She called the Denver police. She got a temporary restraining order, okay? And stuff. My father actually called my mom at the house, all blitzed out. This is how insane he was getting. And he loved my mother. He would do anything for my mother to get her back. And I think the only reason why he wanted to take me away from my mother is, oh, come on, we can be a family again, whatever. That wasn't going to happen. But that's how insane he was getting. And I was embarrassed about all this. You know? The next day here, my mom went to Morristown Superior Family Court to get a restraining order on my dad and stuff. And here I am going to gym class, like, you know, feeling very different. And you know what? I told my mother. First of all, my mom never talked against my father, okay? I swear by that. But there was one day when I was in second grade or whatever, all my friends had both parents, and here I have my mother and two grandparents. And I felt so different. You know? And actually my mom talked to one of the teachers about it. Like, yeah, Vicky feels different because, their parents are divorced, and were divorced, and all her friends have, parents, both parents, and all that stuff, right? So while all this was going on, she got the restraining order and stuff. I didn't see my father. I didn't even get a phone call from my father anymore. And by the way, he never paid child support either. Not a dime. Well, when I got older, he gave me like $10 when I was, 13? When things were being patched up or whatever. But anyway. So every Friday, my grandmother, me, and my mom would go to Willowbrook Mall. Because my mom got paid. We wanted to go out and eat. We wanted to go shopping at the Willowbrook Mall, which is like 45 minutes away, from Denville. But I love that mall. Anyway. Well, one day, she parked her car. Excuse me. She parked her car at Orbox. I still remember Orbox, okay? Bamberger's Orbox, okay? Willowbrook Mall. So we got out of the car and we started walking towards Orbox. And I said to my mom, "Why did you divorce Daddy?" Right out of the blue. And my mom said to me this, "Vicky, one day you're going to find out." And that's all she said to me. And soon enough, I did. But all during this time and stuff, I want my parents back together again. My father also went to places to get dried out. That's what they used to call it. Alcohol's getting dried out. But it didn't last because he did it for my mother. It didn't last too long. But I want my parents back together. I thought I was the reason why they broke up. I know that wasn't the case, okay? But kids feel that way. At any age, really. Whether you're 3 or 7 or, 11 or, 4. And so I always want my parents back together again. Even though I had my grandparents, my grandfather was like more of a father to me than my regular dad. My grandmother was my second mom. I remember one time I was in rehab. I'm going to fast forward this for a minute. Here I'm sitting in rehab, talking to a shrink psychiatrist, right? And he told me, because of what I told him, "You had a bad childhood." I said, "Oh, no, I didn't. What are you talking about?" "No. You had a bad childhood." "No, I didn't. I had baseball. I had friends. I had birthday parties. Holidays were so special." A lot of special memories during the holidays. I didn't have a bad childhood, except for what I told him. You see? Oh, you had a dramatic childhood and stuff because this happened, that. No, I had a good childhood. You know? And that bothered me a lot. It wasn't perfect, guys. It wasn't perfect. But it, but I had a lot of love by my grandparents and my mom. They were nurturing. We had a lot of family time, like playing Scrabble or Gambler or Happy Days or what other games did we play? Rummiko or. I had a good childhood, and don't tell me any different. Just because my dad did certain things, he was an alcoholic. Yeah, well, and I want my parents back together, but still, I didn't have a bad childhood at all. And I couldn't understand it. I'm like, you don't know our family. So, I used to see Pop Up a lot. And my mother said to my dad, well, if you want to see Vicky, you have to see her in front of a priest. What? That was another embarrassing thing. I didn't want that. No. And I was like, no. Why? No. You know? And I was getting angry at my mom. I'm like, no, it's too embarrassing. Because, and we went to a different church. We didn't go to St. Peter's anymore. We went to the Church of the Savior because it was closer to home. But I'm like, no, I don't want to see my dad in front of a priest, a minister. No. So there was a couple of times, right? There was a couple of times where my mom and my pop was always proud of me of my baseball career, and he was so proud and just I love my pop. And so we went up to see him for dinner and stuff, and he actually told me about like my half sister Ellen, who I never saw in my life. I still haven't seen her. So if I bumped into her in Tulsa or in the hospital or where, I don't know. Robert is out in Colorado somewhere. My brother was in the Navy. Tommy, my half brother Tommy, was in the Navy in Annapolis. He took after Dad, right? But I never saw him before. So I was so an only child, right? Spoiled. So one night, Pop called my mom up and said, Karen, Al really wants to see Vicky. And she's, well, that's too bad. He can see her in front of a minister. He's like, no, he doesn't want that. Well, that's too bad then. And Pop says, well, why don't you and Vicky come up to the house? It's still going to be supervised by us. Al's really sick. Al's really sick. So my mom says, okay. I'll allow Al to see Vicky at your house. So I remember what I wore. I had like, neon pink, and I had these punk glasses on, and my hair was feathered, and it was just, right? Because I was 13 at the time. 3 years since I've seen my father. So we got up to the house in Sparta. And, was I nervous? Yeah, I was a little nervous and stuff. My father was more nervous than I was. All that. So we, my mom and I went into the living room. There was my dad. And he had tears in his eyes. It didn't look good. And he didn't want to hug me. And I said to him, Dad, it's okay. You can hug me. I forgive you. And I meant it. He did feel remorseful. I think when that happened, and with all the craziness that happened afterwards, he realized, yeah, this is not working for me anymore. And plus, he was getting very sick. He was getting emphysema, cirrhosis of the liver, like a fatty liver. So he had to make some changes. But after that, but then with me, with all the problems I was having about, like, having my dad in my life again, I could come up with so many issues and stuff. My baseball, like, I wanted to try out. Jim's heard this so many times. Like with my, I wanted to try out for the baseball team in Valley View Middle School in Denville, and they wouldn't allow me because, they want me to be on the girls' softball team, and they all knew I was into Little League, boys' Little League, and I had a lot of respect, right, and all that. And I don't want to go into that either. But, so I had all these issues, all these emotions. I didn't know what was going on with me. In puberty, a lot of crap too, okay? That happens. And so I got a chip on my shoulder. About the baseball, about Dad being sick, and all this stuff, and then Mike, Scotty, Steve, and I, we formed a band. We were just fooling around. We were getting high. We were, and all that stuff. So we formed a band. And and also I joined the Denver string band too. Like like they wanted me on the flugel, and I said no. I wanted to play the drums and stuff, and all that stuff, get my anger out. I'd rather do that than the flugel. And so I was in that for a while. You know what? But yeah, a lot of anger, a lot of confusion, a lot of, and uh, I mean, I just got my dad back, and now he might die. Really? Uh, so, um, I was becoming incorrigible. Uh, I feel guilty about that, especially with my grandparents. They didn't deserve what I did to them. Uh, you know, I stole money. I stole their car. I joy rides with friends and all that crap. And you know, uh, but that's how I acted out. I was impulsive. I was very impulsive. I just didn't care. You know? And the band was an outlet for me. The band was an outlet, and here we're getting better. We're performing in Steve's parents' garage, and we're doing parties, and then we were doing like carnivals, and then uh, the Denver Street Festival, and we were just and we were getting somewhere, you know. But when I was 15, on June 23rd, June's a bad month for me, guys. I'm going to tell you that, okay? Uh, June 23rd, Pop Pop died. And at that time, he had grandma, my father's mother in a nursing home, and all that, because he had to focus on his health and all that stuff. But he died, so that was just a major loss, and I was just going deeper and deeper in that hole. I actually overdosed on alcohol when I was 15. When my mom and I went up to Pop Pop's house, after he passed away, my father wanted me and my mom up there to the house so he could give us some stuff. And guess what? My father was drinking. He had a bottle of wild turkey, and he knew. He's like, my mom was pissed, and so my dad said, "Oh, it's I'm mixing it with soda, all that stuff, right?" And so my mom and dad went upstairs to the attic, and there was that wild turkey. Guess what I did? I drank almost the whole bottle. Well, no, not all of it, but like maybe like I would say like 2/3 maybe. And when my parents came down, my right away my father knew. My father knew, and I mean you know, and my father says, Vicky, don't let your mother find out about this. Like, she can smell it on me. You know? But he didn't want to be blamed for it. He knew he was going to be blamed for this. If he didn't have the alcohol there, none of this would never happen, right? And uh, I remember hugging my dad, and he had this look like of disappointment, sadness, uh, and all that stuff. And he just put me in the car, in the back seat, by the way. And I don't even remember the ride home. Uh, my mom knew something, you know, she knew. And so, I don't remember much after that. But, they sat me in the chair in the living room, rocking chair, and I was just limp. And my mom was, Vicky, nothing. So they put me in the back room on the floor, and I guess they had me turned on my side or whatever. And I guess during this time they decided to call the cops. I mean the ambulance, I'm sorry. And guess who showed up? The cops. Dover cops. Because he wanted to talk to me about a certain thing that happened with the guys and all this stuff and blah 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 blah. And my mom said, yeah, he kicked you. He's like, what's he doing on the floor? And he kicked me. You know, like, you know. But yeah, that was the whole downfall for the whole thing. You know, did I stop? No. You know, I ran away from home a few times. I slept on my friend's couch, or I slept in my friend's den. You know, sometimes the guys would steal money from their parents or whatever, so we could just party at the Skytop Motel. You know, and just, and then we got a gig at FM station on Route 23 in Wayne a few times and stuff. And the second time we showed up there, an A&R guy for Island Records showed up, and you know he liked us, you know, all that stuff, and he actually gave us a signing bonus right there, right in the Ramada Inn, right across the street. from FM station, and we blew that check real quick, literally, and so that's how everything got started. You know, when my father died, that's when I just kept sliding downward into the abyss. My whole world was falling apart. I don't want to live with my grandparents anymore. I don't want to even live with my mom anymore. You know? Even my mom said to me, you know, like, oh, we're going to get out of Grandma and Grandpa's house, and we're going to... Yeah, well, that never happened. But, I skipped over the part where my father died. You know, I did that on purpose, right? And it's hard to see him like that. You know? I mean, he had yellow eyes and well, I didn't tell you the most the really screwed up part. Uh, my dad used to smoke Winston Lights, okay, and he was in Moses Combs Hospital in Greensboro, North Carolina, and he called my mom and said, before you come down, get me a carton of cigarettes. And my mom says, Al, you're in the hospital. Well, they allowed me to smoke. And at that time, you could smoke in hospitals, okay? They used to have cigarette machines in the gift shop. Or the coffee shop. Or whatever. So he's like, get them in North Carolina. Because they're going to be a lot cheaper. Because tobacco is king in North Carolina. So he did that, and you always try to prepare yourself for what they're going to look like and all that, and you still get startled. You still get stunned by how things look. I mean, my father was in so much pain from the radiation treatments and whatever, he couldn't even have a sheet over him. And his legs were out to here. His kidneys were beginning to fail. The only stay there for a couple of days. We only stay there for a couple of days. We met, like the neighbor Marie, and she was nice, and, the only reason why my father moved down to North Carolina is because of, Reverend Jim. He moved down to North Carolina, well, so did my father. He couldn't live without Reverend Jim. And they had a dog, right, the little Dotson, Candy number 6, or whatever, Them, they're naming dogs Candy, I don't know. Man, I'm not getting bitten up here. I think, you know, I know my father's proud of me. I know he is. But having a death of a parent that age changes you. At any age, it changes you, right? Whether you're 62, like my sister-in-law, she lost her mother, and like, we went to Sonic one day, and she said, I've had my mother all throughout my life. Now I'm going to lose her. My mom's birthday's tomorrow. She's in a nursing home. I'm still here. I should be with her celebrating her birthday. You know what I'm saying? Because my grandparents, her parents, lived to be like 83 and 84. Right? Well, she's 82 years tomorrow. So I don't have much, she doesn't have much time on this earth. Let's be realistic. But but speaking of my father though, having a relationship with my father, an alcoholic father, right? It really changes your perspective on relationships with men. It changes yourself, like how you want to be treated by men. Or or you end up with you end up to have a relationship with your father. Like not I mean I'm not, like, it's like I'll tell Jim, I said, you know what, you married your mother. Ew, what? No, that's weird. Because, she had the same qualities that I had. Alright, so of course, when I'm so fucked up in the head and all this stuff that was going on at that time, I ended up with these guys that ended up to be like my father. Because that's all I knew. I had I'm going to say 3 examples of a good marriage in my family. It was my grandparents, my mom's parents, my Uncle Doc and Aunt Jackie, and Uncle Herbie and Aunt Carol. And I think they, like with my my aunt and my uncle and stuff, they looked down at her like, she should have never left Al, and she's a mooch, she's mooching off, around, our parents and stuff, all this other craziness that happens. And that wasn't the case at all. But, when Sean was born, his middle name is Fisk. Fiske. Right? So Sean's middle name is Fisk. Named after my dad. My dad's middle name. You know that? You know? How I wish, he was there to hold Sean, to you know, to be with Sean, you know. Sean had my grandfather. I will admit, it for me it did get easier um, as time went on. Uh, as time went on with years going by, my father's death. You know, so it's tough losing a parent. You know, whether it be from divorce or death. You know, and now my mom's 82. She's gonna be 82 tomorrow. You know, and I'm not gonna be with her. You know, when Ann talked about my mother-in-law, mom, saying, "Oh, I've had my mother all throughout my life. Now I'm gonna lose her." You know, I thought about my mother. I'm out here. You know, when I get that phone call saying, your mother passed away, well, who held her hand? I'm sure the nurses didn't. I don't know, you know, they would call power of attorney and stuff, you know. I hope that doesn't come soon, that day, because it's, I don't want to even think about it. My mother did so much for me, and then my kids. I mean, a lot of times I feel like I'm in denial, like, oh, that date's not gonna come, that date's not gonna come, that, you know, or like when I was in Jersey, oh, she doesn't have dementia, oh no, she doesn't, no, you know, and I knew certain things were off with her, and I feel I really let her down, even though I'm so clean and sober. She's very proud of that, very proud, you know. But my mom and I went through so much together, especially with my dad, you know. And when my dad died too, like, this is another thing too. I was gonna mention this. 2 weeks after we saw him, he passed away, right? Well, we were asleep, my mom and I, right? And it was around 11:30, and I said to my mom, Daddy died. Daddy died. My mom woke up and she said, Vicky, go back to sleep. It's only a bad dream. But Daddy died. Go back to sleep. We never got a phone call. I was still in bed. My mom went down to talk to my grandmother and said, Vicky had this bad dream that her father died. All right? So my grandmother was like, oh, that's just normal, right? It was a Thursday. I came downstairs to eat some cereal, whatever, and my grandmother was going to walk up to the senior center up the street. And, of course, grandma was like, how you doing, Vicky? You know what? And I'm all right, I guess, And I even told I said, Daddy died. I had a dream about Daddy dying. And she said, oh, it's normal, it's just a bad dream. So, so my grandma headed off to the senior center in Denville. Walked up there and stuff. And so it was just me and my mom. Around 1 o'clock, the phone rings. And I was playing with Caesar. Caesar was like a half moon parrot, okay, that my grandmother had for a long time. And stuff. And they live a long time, half moon parrots, right? Well, I mean, I was fooling around with, Caesar or whatever. And so my mom picked up the phone and she said, oh, hi, Marie. And my mom looked at me and she says, your father passed away. She said, I'm so sorry, Vicky. And I jumped, I swear, I jumped and I landed on my knees. I don't know. And she says, Marie wants to talk to you. And she said, oh, we put him in, Carolina blue suit and he's going to look really nice and spiffy or whatever, and whatever. But yeah, my father came to me, okay, and said he passed away. That's not like the only time that's happened to me with somebody. With Cardinal Cook, I don't even know Cardinal Cook from St. Peter's Cathedral in New York. I never knew him, and he came to me. I don't know why, but anyway, that's weird in itself. But my mother drove me down to Fairview to see my father. You know, and even though she said she didn't love him or whatever, she did. She just wanted to be a bitch. You know what I mean? So we all go through our struggles. You know, we all are touched by death in some way or another. We're gonna die someday. We don't know when. And people don't want to talk about death. You know, they don't. Just like recovery, like, alcoholism, addiction, mental illness. It's like a stigma. You know, everybody wants to talk about and celebrate, you know, a birth, right? Somebody's gonna have a baby. Woo-hoo. We should do the same thing with death. We should still have a dialogue about death. And I'll admit, guys, when my grandparents talked about, or my mom talked about, or whatever, I didn't want to hear it. It's like death is a taboo thing, but it's a part of life. Just like birth, right? Pregnancy. You can ask Jim. I watch funerals. I mean, not like, no. I watch funerals like I'll watch, like, uh, Pope Francis, or like George Bush, or Phil Robertson, or whatever. You know, because I get something out of them. When they do the sermon and stuff, when they talk about the Gospels, and they talk about the person's life that you might not have known about, right? And you learn about yourself. And people don't want to hear it, you know? We're never prepared for death. Even if like, the person's dying or whatever. I've had a lot, like, in my addiction, I've had a lot of people die on me by either suicide or overdoses or whatever, car accidents, whatever. You know, it sucks. But you know, I think about death a lot now that I'm at it's like my father died when he was 59. Okay, I'm 21. No, I'm 21 with 33 years experience. Okay. Will I make it to 59 years old? I hope to God I do. Will I make it to 83? I hope I do. Not by the way, my diet is, and lack of exercise, smoking cigarettes. And no, I'm not gonna get that way. And the sun's setting, and I don't know if we can actually. Hmm, I really want uh, show you guys the sunset, but there's gonna be a lot of trees blocking the view. We can try it, right? And my neighbor's chickens were out there, out of the coop, and I don't know if he knew about them being out, but they were almost by our cousins or his cousins' property line. I said, "Oh God, they're gonna shoot them. They're gonna have some dinner." But anyway, let's see if we can see the sunset. But thanks for joining me on my stream, guys. I truly appreciate it and stuff. You know, death isn't easy to talk about. You know, but we should have a dialogue about that too. Just like recovery, sobriety, mental health, mental illness, break the stigma. Like I said, we celebrate, a pregnancy and a birth, right? I'm not saying celebrate a death, but we should talk about it more. Anyway, let's see the sunset. If I can get there, that is. I don't think we're gonna see it. Oh well, maybe. Yep, prayer is the best way to meet the Lord. Trespassing is faster. Second Amendment. Now, can you see it? Now, and you know what? I bet you guys are looking at this saying, this is like Minecraft. It's getting too glitchy now. Can you see it through the trees? Can you? It's pretty. It's so pretty. Right? It's so pretty. It's not so pretty with these in the way, right? Let me get a chair, guys. I'll be right back. My back is gonna break. Oh my God. Ow. Oh my God. My back. Oh my God. Oh. There we go. We can move. Well, I hope the guy that lives in... I'm going to show you something real quick. This house right here Jim, Jim's grandfather built that house, and so we had. I didn't have a lot of memories of it, but Jim's family had a lot of memories of it growing up, and now it belongs to somebody else. And he has chickens. You see the chickens, guys? You can't really see them. Yeah. I want a chicken coop. I actually told, excuse me, I even told Jim I wanted a puppy this morning. But, so, whoops. I know it's not much of a sunset. The branches of the trees are blocking the view. But it's so nice. It's so peaceful. You know? It's so peaceful. I gotta get my cigarettes, guys. Um, let me see if I can. Yeah, like that. There you go. I hope you guys are actually seeing a pretty good view, despite the branches of the trees obstructing the view. But it's getting pretty peaceful. I feel serene. I just had to talk about my father. I just had to talk about my father. You know, even though he passed away 38 years ago, he's still with me here, and I feel like he's, you know, living vicariously through me by being clean and sober and helping others. That's the only reason why I stream, guys. I do it because I want to help others. You know, I want you guys to have a better life. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. You have to want it for yourself. You have to go to lengths to get it. And yeah, getting clean and sober sucks at times. It really does. I've been through it. I was a chronic relapser, okay? But when you see a sunset sober, or you see a city skyline sober, Or you go to a carnival sober, or you go to a NASCAR race sober, or even if you play video games sober. It's such a rush. It's such a different feeling. You know? Meeting new friends sober. Do you really think your friends out there are talking about you? Thinking about you? Now, if they need money, they'll be looking for you. you know? You know, but life is beautiful, guys, when you're clean and sober. And yeah, life isn't a bed of roses, you know, but it's life on life's terms, you know. If you have a good support system, you can get through almost anything. You just have to have a lot of faith and a lot of hope. You know? I don't know if you can... Let me see. I know it, I wish those tree branches weren't there. You know what I was thinking, guys? Wait. You know what I was thinking? I have my notebook too. Anyway. You know what I was thinking? Yeah, see, now the sun's getting lower. So within 10 minutes, you know, when it's below the tree branches, we'll probably see it more. But anyway, I was going to say something. Maybe this weekend, don't hold me to it, guys, okay? Maybe this weekend, Jim and I will go to Keystone Lake, to a different area, and we'll find out what time the sun is setting, okay? So when we find that out, we'll rush over to Keystone Lake, and then I'll set up the cam and stuff, and we can watch the sunset together. How about that? And I know it's not the same thing as if you were out in the real world, right? To see a sunset or a sunrise or whatever, right? But, oh, a bunny! That bunny rabbit. You know, there's a... That bunny rabbit over there? Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. There's a bunny rabbit that, you know, if Jim catches it or I catch it and stuff, guess what's going to happen to it? No, we're not going to make rabbit stew. No, we're not going to make fried rabbit. No, I'm not going to do that. We're going to try to build a cage or just let it hop in the house. Whatever, but back to what I was saying, guys. All right. I know it's not the same thing to experience a sunset through a stream like it is in real life, right? But I want us, I want you, and you, and you, and you, and you, in you, in me, to experience to get together and just feel that peace and calmness. And the promises of AA talks about that in the promises. We will know serenity and we will know peace. And I believe in the promises of AA. So let's check back. It's the sun's setting lower and lower. So let's see if we can. I don't know if we can. I know this is not the perfect spot, guys. Oh, believe me, I know it. Maybe I can ask Jim to go over to that's his cousin's house over there. Maybe I'll ask Jim to go over to his cousin's whoever talks to. Go over there and say, can you get your branches so Vicky can show the sunset on her stream? Haha. And just the sounds out here. You know, like the birds. And yeah, I know you hear the trucks and the traffic going on with the highway. Alright. But just the birds and like the crickets. You know? Life is beautiful, guys. And believe me, when you're drinking and drugging, you're not living, you're existing. You're just floating in the wind. Like I was. And if you guys are struggling with drugs and alcohol, you can always talk to me, guys. I've been off crack and heroin since 2004, alcohol since 2011, and I'll be glad to help you out in any way I can, because by giving away my gift of recovery to you guys, it's actually helping me get stronger. So it's a win-win situation. Now, I don't know if you can see this. You can. Can you see, like, the bright orange of the sun? Like, how vibrant that is? It's going to be a hot day tomorrow here. I hope this guy doesn't come out and say, what are you doing on my lawn? I don't think he would do that. But technically we are on his lawn. But anyway, but we're not stealing any chickens. Anyway, can you see the oh my god, can you see it? Can you see that? Oh my god. Wait, hold on. Can you see that? Wait, let me see. Oh my god. That sun is like a fireball. And believe me, guys, when I say this, Oklahoma has one of the best sunsets and stuff because of the vibrant colors and the hues and all that stuff. Life is beautiful. Don't take it for granted, guys. But wow, if I'm sorry, it's not a better picture, okay? But can you see oh my god, it's so vibrant. Oops. And can you see the different hues of the sky, like violet, like a magenta, and oh man, I wish we could. That sun is so freaking bright. I'll ask Jim, like, and this depends on if my back's better, guys. Okay, but I'll ask Jim to take us to Keystone Lake, to a spot where I mean you can actually see the sun setting like in real time. Yeah, I wish those branches weren't in the way. I want to be respectful. I mean, I bet you if I went over there in front of those branches, um, they'll probably say, "Who the hell is that?" uh, you know, they're weird. I'm gonna tell you one. They're just weird over there. Okay, all right. But look at that. You can wait. There's actually a bunny rabbit uh, jumping around, hopping around. Right. Well, you can't. But see, if I had a better relationship with Jim's cousins and stuff, I don't think they would have mind if I. Well, they have dogs too, like, but I don't think they would mind if I went across there and showed you the sunset, unless they're paranoid and thinking I'm part of the DEA or something like that. Anyway, but yeah. I feel so much serenity right now. Even though, even though the trees are in the way of the sunset, it's still an easy, peaceful feeling. Awesome. And you know what? You know what, guys? Guys, I want to tell you something. Watching this is a whole hell of a lot better than watching what's on YouTube. With all the chaos going on in LA and wherever else and stuff. You know, you should try to get away from the white noise, right? Don't get sucked into the darkness. You know? And you guys, like I said, if you ever need a vent about anything, I'm always here for you. I genuinely care about you, even though I don't know you. I still care about you. But yeah. Yeah, that sun's going down. But thank you for being here, guys. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, see, you get. Hold on. There's the rabbit. I don't know. Yeah. See how it's like going down? You just see a little speck of orange. And you see the hues of like magenta and mauve and pinks and yep. The wonders of the universe, guys. And tell you, you know what? Tell you the truth, guys, I think I needed this. Just to see the sunset. Just to feel serene and just be at peace. You know, about my father's death and, you know, that's life. And he was a sick man. We addicts and alcoholics are sick people just trying to get well. You know, and it was too late for him. That is beautiful. Anyway, see how it's like, I don't think you can see it, but it's like pink and then, you know, then light shades of maybe lavender. You know what? Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me on my stream. I hope you have a wonderful night, a peaceful night. Don't get caught up in what's going on in LA. You know what? Yeah, it's a terrible thing, you know, what's going on. And it's like, I hope it's not going to be a chain reaction um, and all that. But just stay away from the white noise. If you feel anxiety, depression, you know, if you're falling into the rabbit hole and just keep watching this crap over and over and over again, like say with, you know, mainstream media, Tim Pool, prepping channels, whatever, turn the phone off, take a walk, enjoy the sunset. Well, not, you know, write a poem, make a new recipe, you know. I try not to watch that crap, but I notice when I'm in a lot of pain with my back, I watch that stuff a lot. Like, you know, doom scrolling, right? Because I'm in so much pain, I'm in such a dark space, right? I'm in a dark space, and whatever, keep watching this until my head explodes. Or what, you know. And on top of that, there's a lot of distractions too that are trying to get. I'm back. My hick internet broke again. Anyway, so just don't, fall in the rabbit hole with this crap. With what's, I think it's important on what you know about it, the narrative, the true narrative of what's going on, but just don't just over and over and over and over and again. Today I was like just sick and tired of. To me, I was thinking, oh my God, this is gonna be worse than Rodney King riots back in '92, or the BLM movement, right? It's just pure insanity. And you know what? You have a right to just get off the insanity, right? Just like I do. Like I said, read a book, go for a walk, play with your cats, draw, write a poem, write a short story. Your brain can only handle so much, and the internet has really scrambled our brains like a blue plate special at a Jersey diner. Scrambled our brains a lot. And it makes you think. But anyway, guys, like I said, thank you for joining me on my stream. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Just by you being here is enough. Take care of yourself. Do something for others. It'll make you feel good inside instead of just watching that crap, what's going on, and how I ate all that crap, right? Do something special for yourself. Like maybe get a pizza or get a new game or get a new vinyl album, whatever, right? But you'll even feel better if you do something for yourself. You'll even feel better if you do something for somebody else. But take care, guys. Until next time, I'm Rock Queens, everyone, coming at you live from my headquarters, and I'm signing off. Have a good one, guys. Until next time.